Hey, to whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be alright, so quit your worrying. I get it, the odds seem stacked back against the wall, but even consider it such, know you'll stand tall. Sat and watch from the sidelines, one too many times, wicked games we play, make me wanna lose my mind. Found solitude, knowing it'll be over soon.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to SheEO Talk. This is the woman's journey, right? This is where we do interviews to discuss a woman's career path or their entrepreneur experience, right? I am your host, Jasa King. On this segment of the Just Jasa platform, that is where we have all of the amazing podcasts that I bring to you on either a Tuesday, a Wednesday, or a Saturday within a month. We will be discussing, again, the entrepreneur world, a stay-at-home mom's experience going from a career to being at home, or just a woman with an amazing story. Every Wednesday at 12 p.m. right here on all of your favorite podcast platforms, or check me out on YouTube with a full video. You can also find our past episodes on our website at audacityofwomen.com. If you enjoy these amazing women's stories, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like this video, comment your inspiration, but most importantly, turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the future interviews. Now, let's jump into this amazing SheEO talk for the week. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to SheEO Talk. As you know, on Wednesdays, I have the privilege of interviewing amazing entrepreneur SheEOs, women in our community that are just doing what they need to do. Today, we are focusing on our education month with an educator. Jasmine is on here to obviously share everything that she's doing. She is a fifth grade teacher. She is the Fulbright finalist, y'all. Ooh, mouthful. The Fulbright Finalist. She's going to tell us about that, what she had to do in order to jump on that journey, as well as her tutoring business, Just Bloom. So first off, obviously, thank you so much for spending time with me to talk about your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. So obviously, there's so much we have to talk about to dive into. But first, tell us a little bit about you, how you got started in education.
Yeah, so of course, my name's Jasmine Alexander. My students like to call me Miss J, and I actually prefer that a little bit more. I feel like it goes with my personality. I was born and raised in San Bernardino, California. And after I graduated high school, I made my way to San Diego in 2016 and actually got my bachelor's in public health there. And then, so I graduated in 2020, so that was during the pandemic, and it was just a crazy time. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And in public health at that time, everything was like COVID. It was about COVID, and I was like, I don't really want to work in that. And so after researching a few opportunities, I looked at like the Peace Corps, and then Teach for America. And then I looked at working at Health and Human Services here in San Diego County. And then I ended up landing on Teach for America, because you get a full salary. Like it just seemed a little more stable for something that I would do right after college. And I feel like I've always, growing up, I didn't want to be a teacher, but I feel like that's usually kind of the good thing. It's like sometimes you don't, it's like you're called to it, if that makes sense. So after researching Teach for America, I ended up applying for it. And then you go through a process of, you get your interview, you do like a demo lesson, and then you have to wait to hear back. But since it was like COVID, even Teach for America was like, I don't know what we're going to do. Because part of Teach for America is that you travel to another area, region of the United States, and then you're placed in that community. So that would be kind of difficult during COVID. But I ended up getting placed in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Really excited about. Love my Bay Area family.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up getting placed in Fruitvale, Oakland, California. And I taught there for 3 years. I taught 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a whole experience in itself. And I really started my professional education experience through Teach for America and working at Ascend K through 8 school, which is a public charter school in Oakland. And yeah, that's how I started. And so after 3 years of teaching there, I kind of I felt like I wasn't really growing in the way that I wanted to. And I felt like my school was going through some leadership changes as well. And so I decided, I was like, I want to take a break from it and like try to pursue something else. So my 3rd year was my last year at Ascend K through 8 school. And it was really hard to say goodbye. Like I actually didn't want to be a 5th grade teacher. I wanted to work in high schools. And so I felt like being there, it was really such a beautiful moment, because I was like, I didn't really want to teach 5th grade, but then it was like, that was the opportunity that I was given, and I ended up loving it and doing really well and like connecting with students. And now I'm like, I love little kids, and I love working with like 2nd grade to 5th grade. Like that's really my jam, which I was really surprised about. So, but it was a beautiful surprise, which I appreciated. And I truly fell in love with my community, and it was wonderful. So it was really hard to leave. But then I was like, I had to think about my growth and like what I'm hoping to do in this world, which is always hard, but it's helpful with therapy, I will say. Yeah, so after my 3rd year, I decided to move home, and I applied for a few different opportunities. Because when I first went to college, I actually wanted to work in like physical therapy, working with the human body. So I applied for opportunities like that. And then I also applied for the Fulbright Scholar Grant, which is very involved, like, especially if you're not in university. I applied at large, which means like you just apply with the whole pool of people versus applying with the university.
Okay.
Yeah, and so essentially I quit my job and I like put all my faith and energy into my application. And then I moved home with my family to kind of focus on my application. And then I was subbing actually in the school district that educated me, which I feel like that's a whole other podcast in itself. Becoming a teacher when you were the student in the district it's just mind-blowing sometimes. And in April 2024, I actually found out that I was rewarded the grant. And around that time, I had just got my master's in education as well. I was like, great moment. And I was like, okay. I remember repeating, I was just like, okay, it wasn't for nothing. Like I quit my job and like, move home. It wasn't for nothing. So I ended up getting the grant. And now I'm preparing to move to Ghana. That's the country that I had applied for because I actually have like Ghanaian ancestry. So I felt like it'd be a very beautiful moment to like come to Ghana. And I'm hoping to go to Nigeria as well. And so I'm going to teach in Ghana for 9 months, teaching English. And yeah, so when I did my application, I will say like it was a long process, and you definitely need like a team of people around you, and I definitely did. So I definitely want to shout out my team of people that supported me, like my mom, my boyfriend, Bryant Wells, Hiva Ahmed is one of my closest friends, and Melissa Carragher as well. Like they really held me. And I feel like having a team of people to like support you and uplift you, it really takes a village. So that's really my journey in education. Still on it, obviously. Always, I'm a lifelong learner, so still going through the motions of being in education.
Yes, I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing, because that is very insightful. So I definitely want to dive in to the beginning, right? So with you going into public health, I noticed that you have a huge focus on education and health in those collaborations and how you present yourself as a teacher. How did you incorporate that into your teaching experience, or why was that important for you?
Yeah, when I got my public health degree, I was like, what am I gonna do with this? It's so broad. Like, you're literally, the classes that I took, they were so broad, like so many different avenues that you can go. And I remember when I first started, I was more concerned about like the human body and like physical therapy and like rehabilitation like that. And then I took a course on, we all have to take this course about community health. And so it was like the origins of public health, and it was talking about like just studying different pandemics and epidemics that have happened. And I was like, oh, like this is really interesting to talk about it, you know, in the community aspect. And then I took a class on human sexuality, and it like I went into this whole rabbit hole of like reproductive rights and like really getting into that. And then like my last year, I took a health education course and a behavioral health course. And that made me really interested in working with people and trying to like, you know, get the word out of healthy practices, which is essentially teaching. It's like teaching people how to be healthy. But I always feel like when you're a teacher, it's like you have all these expectations of like the lesson that you're going to deliver. And you know, when people don't follow it, it's like, what's your response? You know, you get upset. Like, how do you... You know, and so I felt like I didn't really want to go into teaching health because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to respond myself.
Yeah.
If I'm giving you all these tips of like and like exercise, and then my clients are like, no, I don't really want to do that. It's like you really have to like battle your ego and be like, okay, like, and meet this person where they're at. And I feel like becoming a teacher, it did help me to become patient, because it's like you're working with kids. For me anyways, I was working with kids that were between 10 and 12.
Right.
And they're doing life for the first time. Like you just need to be patient. So I do think it taught me a lot of patience. And so when it came time, because in 5th grade, students do have to take health education, so it's sex education, and start that whole, for my school district did.
Yeah.
But I feel like 5th grade's usually the time that...
Yeah.
Because
I remember that was for me. Yeah. That was when I learned.
Yeah, that's when you go through puberty, and it's like, it's just such a wild time. And I remember my first year it was on Zoom, so it was really hard to connect, but we still did it through having social distancing events and stuff, and like visiting some of our families at a distance, and it did, like, we did create the relationships. And so when we came in person, that was the next year. We came in person and we actually did like the health education courses.
Yeah.
It kind of all mixed together, which was kind of cool, because it was like teaching kids about puberty, but then also giving them, you know, health tips and stuff, and watching them try to implement it. And then, being embarrassed to ask questions about your health. It did kind of fill me in a positive way of like, okay, like health and education go hand in hand.
Right.
And it's like, if you're not educated about your health, you're not going to be able to live a healthy life. So it did kind of come together, which was really cool to see.
Okay, awesome. I definitely love that. And it's funny because I think about like teaching those kids at that age things that are definitely uncomfortable. How did you navigate that just for yourself? That's a first, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did separate it. So boys would be with two of our male teachers. And then we had me and my co-teacher both identify as women. So we like took all the girls, and I kind of wanted to teach them all together because I was like, that's a challenge for me. Because I feel when I did teach, though, the girls were really receptive and they like wanted to know about, what to do when they get their period, or, how to be clean in doing that, and using deodorant and everything. And they would ask me, it was kind of funny because all the kids knew I had like a little stash in my desk. And so when they would have their period, they would go to me and then they like point to my desk and they wouldn't even say it out loud. It was so funny. Like they would point to the desk and I'd be like, do you need pads? And they're like, shh.
Right, don't say that word.
I'm like, it's fine to say it. And but yeah, so I didn't get to teach my students that I identified as boys. I didn't get to teach them. I only taught the girls. But I do wish I taught the boys because it's uncomfortable for everybody, right? And it's like we got to get past that, So, but it was pretty easy, and like the girls were really receptive to just like learning and asking questions. And then we had a little box that could be anonymous. You didn't have to put your name. We had like a box where kids could put like their questions, and then we would answer them out loud at the end. And so I think that was really helpful to have just a box where they can write their questions and not have to put their name on it. That I felt like that was a really good thing that we decided to do.
I love that. I absolutely love when we can like start somewhere, like with you in public health. You start somewhere you don't realize how it's going to help you later in life. And that's such an amazing feeling, especially as a teacher, when you're like, oh, this is my bread and butter right here. Like this is where I can thrive and really imprint your personality and your skills on kids. So I definitely love that. And I commend you for that. Okay. So what would you say made you fall in love with fifth grade? Because again, you said you were interested in high school. That's a totally different set of ages right there. What drew you into fifth?
Yeah, fifth grade. It's like you kind of have to put yourself in like when you were in fifth grade, right? Just like you have to think back, like when I was 10, 11, 12, like how was I as a and I was a menace. Like I can't
send some apology letters.
Yeah, like I was talking all the time in class, and like I don't know, having crushes on everyone. And so it was just it's a really pivotal time in a kid's childhood, because it's like you're old enough to be able to do more, but you're still young enough to the point where you can't do everything. And it's just such a battle every morning. Like, and then you're going through puberty, and like you're trying to find your friend group. So I felt like fifth grade, I don't know what it was. I mean, it's all that, right? It was all that for me. And they're also at an age where you can have real conversations with them. And I thought that was really special because I remember in 5th grade, actually, that was when my grandpa passed away. And so because a few of my students, their grandparents did pass away as well. And just having that moment to talk about our family is also important. I feel like in 5th grade, you kind of start understanding like, oh, like my parents work all the time to support me. And like, you're starting to make those connections of like, okay, like I'm about to go into middle school and, so I think it's just a fun age. Like they're definitely mean and they don't have a
no, not me.
Yeah, I feel like some are like some are really out to like, push the boundaries, but it's also a really important thing as a teacher to establish those boundaries with kids at that time. But yeah, it was I was really shocked that I enjoyed it so much, but it's such a pivotal time. I feel like it's an important time in our lives, and yeah, you really have to have patience, and it really did teach me patience, which I did appreciate. So
yes, and that is very true. I think that's hilarious. I know when I worked in the school, I remember teachers, at least at that level, would complain about middle school. Like that was the biggest fear. And it was more so because of that balance and the changes in personality and just trying to figure out who you were going to get every morning. So I think that's hilarious because you think about 5th graders, they're right there. Like you have no idea who you're going to get. So I think it's absolutely hilarious when I hear stories.
yeah.
So tell me about your tutoring business, Just Bloom. First off, where did you come up with the name? That is so cute.
Yeah. So when I moved home, I was like, I might as well do private tutoring because, I do have the experience and everything. And I love plants. I love flowers. My name means a fragrance of a flower. So, I'm glad that name is actually pretty good. Usually it takes me a long time. And then I was like Googling to see if it was already a name. But yeah, it came from my love of plant life and flowers. And I remember one time it was either one of my coworkers or possibly a family member. They were saying like children are like plants, like you water them and watch them bloom. And so I thought that was really special.
Yeah, that's cute.
My little plants.
Yeah, and it works. It is so cute.
Yeah.
I love that. So I do want to talk about your school experience, right? So coming out of the pandemic, you mentioned the first year you guys were online and then going into the school with people. What did that look like, right? So your leadership, you said towards the end, they were transitioning out. How did it look and how was the culture prior to that transition?
Yeah, with the pandemic, so the school that I taught at is called Ascend K-8 school. It's a charter school. And I actually have become friends with a lot of teachers that taught there for like 10 plus years, which was really nice. And that school is an expeditionary learning school. And I could talk more about what that means. And it's a school that's really hands-on with learning. And so transitioning to Zoom wasn't terrible because we were able to do it, but it was hard.
Yeah, like I can imagine.
It was so hard. And it was like, we can't even fathom doing half of the stuff that we would do in person on Zoom, but somehow we did it, which was, and we survived. Yeah. So, I mean, when I would teach, it was like, I kind of had to, I kind of had to make a agenda where there would be like 2 groups of kids, and then say for like an hour, or no, I would say for like 10 minutes, I would go over what we're going to do for the day. And then I would give half of my students work that they would do on their own. Asynchronous. I hate that word. But asynchronous work. So they would do it on their own, and it would be like Lexia reading. And I taught reading and writing, and that was it. And then I had a co-teacher that taught math and science. So that was really nice, having to just focus on reading. And then I threw in like some geography, because that's important to know where you are in this world. And I love traveling, and I love learning about countries. So of course I like added that in there. And then, so the other half, then they would be with me, and we would be working on like whatever assignment it was for that day, or reading. And then they would switch, which was hard, because it's like, you don't know if the kids are actually going to do this work. So it was a lot of talking to parents or whoever the guardians were of the student, and really having that relationship of like, so-and-so isn't on Zoom. Like, where are they at? And that, I felt like that really exposed a lot of disparities within certain communities, because it was like, for me, if I did that, I literally was raised by my mom and my grandma, and my grandma did not have Wi-Fi. So I'm like, I don't even know if I would have been able to go to school, like, and I mean, to go off on a tangent a little bit, like, my grandma did teach me how to read, and I think that says a lot too. Like, my grandma taught me how to read. I watched her read all the time. And so I really love reading, and it's really hard to teach students how to read if they've one, never seen anyone in their family really do it, and two, like, it is boring. It's like you're sitting with the book, and you're like trying to read the words, and if you can't read the words, like, you don't know what's going on. So I definitely understand how hard it is to read, and I understand that families work a lot. Because they're trying to provide for their kids. So it taught me a lot about just the systematic like hardships that people have to go through with having kids. And I feel like Zoom taught me that a lot.
Right.
And then going in person, it was like, okay, like, everybody's here, it's good, but now it's like the behavioral issues are popping off, So it had its own, like, it had its own pros and cons. I would never want to do that again, to teach like 30 plus kids on Zoom. No, thank you. So, yeah, I mean, it did have its pros of like being able to work from home, and I got to get up and make my own snack, and like clean around the house a little bit sometimes, like, nobody's like breathing down my neck or popping into my room, but I would probably never want to do that again.
I completely understand, and that's crazy, because that was a huge complaint, especially with parents just having to deal with their kids. So when you had to deal with, conversations like that, or even parents that didn't give that time to make sure their kid was on Zoom, how did you navigate that experience?
Luckily, I had a wonderful co-teacher, Amanda Claire. So we really like we would meet all the time, and we would talk about like students that we didn't see often, and then we would kind of like pass off phone calls, because Like, not gonna lie, some families did like they preferred her over me, or like they preferred me over her, and so we kind of like split it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would have like conversations with them about I felt like what she really taught me, because she had been teaching, I don't want to get it wrong, but she had been teaching for at least, I want to say 15 years or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we really work well together. Like, I thinking about it now, I'm like, if I did go back into a school and have a co-teacher, I'm probably gonna like compare them to her, which is not healthy, but she was probably, I was really lucky to have her as a co-teacher.
Mm-hmm.
We just like complimented each other so well. But we would really just like do the phone calls, because it's like, you know, and then if they yelled at us or like they felt a type of way, then we would pass it off to like our admin, and then they would take her from there, because, you know, what I'm not about to do is be yelled at for trying to ensure that your student is online. And I always made it known, like I always said that story about how my grandma didn't have Wi-Fi. So I was like, I'm not stupid. Like, I know I know, yeah, like I know what's going on. I'm not being dumb, but we're just saying like, they do need to be on there in order to learn, you know, like if they're not understanding the content, like you do need to be there. That's the main thing, is to be there. But I do think some students did really thrive being online because they don't like being around other people.
Right.
Which was really sweet to see. But it's like one of my students, he thrives so much because he was like, he had his like little setup.
Yeah.
It was like a routine every day. And like, he would always like show me his book, and like, you know, it was like some kids really did like being online because they weren't around all the madness that was going on in the classroom. So pros and cons.
Definitely, for sure. And that's so nice to see. I think that something else that has come up to be very important too is that support from your admin team, and having that quality culture with your co-teacher. That is so hard to find, especially for teachers nowadays. That conversation is always huge as far as the desire to come to work. And I can say, for my personality type alone, if my environment is not good, if I don't have people that support what I'm trying to do, unfortunately, I shut down. I have no desire to be here, because I already know, on top of the challenges with the actual task, I'm not surrounded by people that are in that same, like, we need to be uplifting each other. This is already difficult. So I think that is definitely important to highlight. And I appreciate you sharing that experience.
Yeah.
To close out, I do want to talk about our attention grabber question. Something that you mentioned was taking a risk, okay? Jumping out and quitting your job. So going back to the grant, what did that look like for you? Because it's not something you're just like, you know what, I'm done, let's do this. It was a thought process. And for my platform, it's entrepreneurs, it's everything that goes into taking that risk. So what was your thought process? What was your motivation?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had been teaching there for 2 years, and Teach for America is kind of notorious for being like, you know, you do 2 years and then you leave, and that's not really beneficial to the students. So I stayed another year just so I could get out of that like stereotype, but it was it was still 3 years, and I still felt like really horrible for leaving. But like I said before, it was like I have been going to therapy. I think I've said it a lot. I really recommend, if you do go into education, to do therapy as well, because you don't want to be taking home your work with you, and like you are going to take it home with you because you care. And it's going to be important to have a person like a therapist that's not your family, because you don't want to bog down your family with all your issues, like a third party to really sound off like what you want to do. And so during one of my therapy sessions, I had talked about how I love to travel and like talking about all the things that, just like listing things that I love to do. And through that, it kind of inspired me, and from talking to my cousin too, because she's like really big into vision boards and like 5-year plans. And so it made me like create a vision board, and a part of it was like really traveling and understanding my identity and who I want to be. And so I was like, I'm gonna apply for this grant. And I was like, I want to go to somewhere that I have a connection to and, try to make it happen. And yeah, so I did think about it a lot, and I was like, do I want to leave? Like, do I want to stay another year and then go? And you just have to decide. Like you like after a while, I know one of my downfalls is that I am interested in so many things. Like I'm interested in human sexuality, environmental health, like teaching, traveling, having my own homestead. It's like you need to choose one of those things and try it. And so for me, I was like, okay, I need to stop saying like, what if, and then actually do it. So I will say like my only advice for that is I was lucky to be blessed with a mother that took me back and to her home. And like, of course we talked about it, and she was like, why are you even asking? Like, of course you're going to come home. But it's like, like I'm an adult and I'm out like trying to make a name for myself and everything. And so I wanted to be as respectful as possible, but I did move back home with my parents, and I feel like that's okay. Yeah. the cost of living right now, crazy.
Yes.
So, yeah. But yeah, I just did it, and I was like, if it doesn't work out, that was something that you need to be aware of as well. Like, when you plan things and you want to do things, I feel like oftentimes we're like, okay, everything's going to go according to plan, and it's like, you do have to be realistic. Like, what if you don't get it? What if you don't, and you have to be realistic with yourself and have those backup plans. And so I did have backup plans as well. And I got my master's in education, so I could always go back to teaching, and I was really real with myself. I was like, if I don't get this, what am I going to do? But if I do get it, like what am I going to do? Like exploring both avenues.
I love that. And that is a very good point to end with, is being realistic with yourself. And a lot of the times I think that just has to be a personality trait for entrepreneurs and people that are trying to teach and do so many things. We are always interested in everything. I think it's being able to see the possibilities and wanting to share that with the world and share that with just really people that are willing to listen. So definitely understanding that is a very good piece of advice to leave with. Obviously appreciate your time and want to know, how can we connect with you through tutoring or really just following your journey? What would you like to share?
Yeah, I've been thinking about making a blog, but I'm like, I don't know, but possibly. Yeah. So, yeah, maybe a blog incoming. But you can always connect with me on Instagram at jazz.moniq, or LinkedIn if you want to get professional. It's just my first and last name, Jasmine Alexander. I think a way to know if it's me, obviously the picture, but it also says Fulbright Finalist in it. So looking for that. And then if you want to reach out for tutoring, I did leave my email. It's jazz.alexm@gmail.com. So, and I'll be sure to post it as well.
Yes, and we definitely appreciate it. You guys know every link, every connection will be on our page, audacityofwomen.com. So you can just go there and click on all of the little links to connect with Jasmine, and make sure you definitely look out for her blog. I know I am. That's going to be awesome. I would love to follow that. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate your story, your journey. Everything that has to do with you is valued on SheEO Talk. So we look forward to your journey.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the time to share it. So thank you.
Yes, of course. Awesome, awesome, guys. This was another amazing SheEO Talk episode, Educator Edition. So make sure you come back next Wednesday on our Tuesday. This entire month, we will be talking about education and promotion for KMS education, guys. Definitely tune in with me to make sure we are keeping up on our updates and everything that is to come. This is SheEO Talk. I'm Jasa. Until next time, bye, guys.
All right, guys, that was our episode. Thank you so much for listening to this amazing interview from another SheEO. Here at SheEO Talk, the Women's Journey, we like to make sure that we are catering to our audience. So if you are interested in being a SheEO, or you want to just be a guest on the Just Jasa platform, please make sure you visit our website, audacityofwomen.com, and go under the podcast section. On that same section, you're going to find the sign-up links. Go ahead and sign up with us to be a guest on any of the Just Jasa platforms, okay? That could be SheEO Talk, that could be Just Jasa Saturdays, or our new segment, which is Awareness and Heritage Panels. And lastly, our biggest one, which will be coming now in May, Contrary to the Culture. So make sure you go ahead and sign up. I would love to have some new guests. But before you go, thank you so much again for watching or listening, depending on your platform. Make sure you like, share, comment, but of course, subscribe to all of our channels on our platforms, as well as turn on your notifications so you don't miss any future interviews. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Jasa King. Until next time.
Hey, to whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be alright, so quit your worrying. I get it, the odds seem stacked back against the wall, but even consider it such, know you'll stand tall. Sat and watch from the sidelines one too many times. Wicked games he play make me wanna lose my mind. Found solitude knowing it'll be over soon.